Vladimirski. Ryan Weir is half the man he used to be, thankfully.
All right, so we're back with another episode of the TV2 News Podcast. We've got Darian Cotto here today, real estate agent, Christie's International Real Estate. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome. I'm sure you're busy with the market, crazy these days.
Crazy market right now.
Yeah.
You guys know about it.
Yeah. We do. We dabble in houses.
A little bit. Just a little bit. I see you guys here and there.
So we asked you to come on today because you and Ryan do share, very similar paths in a particular sense, right? You guys were just telling me off the air, Ryan, you've been sober how many years?
Just over 2 years.
And you?
5.5 years last month.
5.5 years. That's amazing. So, we wanted to shoot this episode in the hopes of, obviously sharing your guys' stories, but also hoping that it can help somebody else who's struggling with whatever form of addiction that they're struggling with right now. So, Darren, we'll start with you. Tell me, give me a brief summary of, what your addiction was, how it started.
So I started drinking when I was 12.
Okay.
I would go into the fridge, take the Bud Light bottles, drink them. I love the taste of beer, don't know why. And then I would fill them up with water, put them back in the fridge, hoping my mom would never notice. Yeah, at 12, thinking I was so smart. Then my mother caught on, became a big fiasco, whatever, I stopped. And then I just got wild at age 17 in high school. So the reason it all started was my father left when I was 5. Mm-hmm. But what happens. I lived in Yonkers. A lot of my friends lived with either their grandparents or their aunts, so I was really lucky to still have my mother. She worked very hard. My mother never drank, never did drugs. Single mom, 4 kids. Worked 3-4 jobs, but by the time she was 26, she had 4 kids. So she never drank. Addiction did run in my family, though, on my father's side. My father ended up committing suicide when I was 11. I believe that's why, I started drinking at 12. Then I got out of hand at 17, but I was always gifted in school. So I was very smart. In first grade, I was always in advanced. Second grade, reading, mathematics, all the way up until 8th grade. Mm-hmm. But I was just a party animal, life of the party. And then at 17, cocaine and alcohol were my drugs.
Got it.
By 21, I was a full-blown addict. 23, I had my first DWI. So it really started from 17, and I didn't get sober till I was 27.
10 years.
10 years of just constant abuse. So it was maybe 5-6 nights a week, blacked out, drinking, cocaine use. I was also mixing Xanax, Molly here and there, and I didn't even touch weed my whole life until I got sober, actually. But 23 was my first DWI. And then I lost my license. I was working in construction at that time. I was remodeling floors, backsplashes, bathrooms. Now I couldn't drive to clients' houses. So actually, that's when I got my real estate license. I was on house arrest for a year. So I said, what am I going to do? I loved houses, loved being inside them, so I got my real estate license. I was still struggling, though, with my addiction. So 24, I got licensed. I walked into Coldwell Banker. I had no car. I have an aggravated misdemeanor on my record that was dropped from a felony. So now I have to go explain this to the manager of Coldwell Banker why she should hire me, give me a job. At 24, I walked into Coldwell Banker. She gave me a chance. She partnered me with Michael Lamort. So I've been with him for 10 years now, but for about 4 of those years, I was in and out of the office. I was ghosting. I don't think Mike ever knew really how deep it was, but I'd be gone for 3-4 months. And it's because I was on benders. I'd be on a 3-day cocaine bender, spent $400 on cocaine that weekend, all went up my nose, drinking on top of it, and then I'd be gone for like 3 months at a time. Now I had another job at night, so it wasn't like I was obligated or full-time as an agent at that time.
Right.
So it was kind of hard for Mike to, let me go or keep me. I know he was torn for a little while, but, that's just where I wanted to be in real estate. And I was just struggling really hard. So from 17 to 27 was just the darkest years of my life. And I overdosed on cocaine and Xanax when I was about 25. After a long night of drinking, I couldn't go to sleep. It was like 9 in the morning now. I had the shakes from all the cocaine. And I said, fuck it, I need to go to bed. So I took a bar of Xanax, and then everything went gray. my heart was getting slower, and I said, oh shit. I said, I think I'm about to overdose. So I crawled myself to the bathroom, made myself throw up, and that didn't even teach me a lesson. I said, okay, I can't mix cocaine and Xanax.
So that
Instead of just stopping completely, I said, I cannot mix cocaine and Xanax. That's dangerous.
Right.
Sounds familiar.
So I stopped the Xanax. I was like, all right, let me just stick to the cocaine and alcohol. I'm the very type of person, I won't learn my lesson until I learn the hard way. So it wasn't until I did a stint in a mental hospital for about 10 days. I was inpatient. That felt like 3 months in that mental hospital. There's no clocks on the walls. The windows are all guarded, bars that you can't see outside. There's nothing for you to do in there.
Feels like prison.
Feels like prison. So that was a reality check for me. I'm like, okay, if I go to prison, this is what it's going to feel like. So I get out of the rehab center. I'm now 26 at the time. 27, I get my second DWI. Now I'm out on Long Island, 4:30 in the morning. My second DWI, though, I don't know if you guys know the law. If you get 2 within 10 years, it's automatic. You're going to prison.
Really?
There's no shot of probation, because my first DWI, 23, I did 3 years probation. Skated out of that one. My second one, the cop literally told me, he was a state trooper. Handcuffed me, put me on the sidewalk. He says, you're going to prison. It's your second one within 5 years. So I said, oh, shit. I said, the first thing went to my mind, I said, I have to call Mike Lamort because I think my career's over. So my first call was my mother at 4:30 in the morning. My mother was on the phone with the state trooper for an hour and a half. I'm ready to go to Attica. Literally, they told me 5 to 7 years. So I said, okay, I'll be out when I'm 32. That's all I'm thinking. I'm drunk as hell on the sidewalk. So I call my mother. She's on the phone with the state troopers for an hour and a half. And for some reason, right after that phone call, I don't know what she said to them, they said, we know you have a problem, and they took my handcuffs off. So I said, no way. And they said, you're going to go home. But they said, you have to get clean. And that was August 17th, 2017. And from that moment, after I thought I literally was going to prison for 5 years, and I would have got out probably around this time now, from that day on, I never touched a sip of alcohol or cocaine.
That's amazing.
I never touched it. And the only reason was because that night when I came home, my mother cried to me and said, I don't want to bury you, and I don't want to see you in prison. She goes, but I can visit you in prison. She goes, I can't visit you if I have to bury you. And that broke my heart. And from that moment on, they say you can't get sober for anyone unless it's yourself. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's very true. But in that moment, I got sober for my mother. And then as I continued to do the work for myself, I continued to stay sober for myself. But in that moment, I only got sober for my mother.
Good for you.
And that's what kept me going.
And to this day, you don't know what she said to the state trooper.
She begged them. She was crying.
Yeah.
When I got home, she was crying on the phone with them, told her, please don't take her. I only have my kids, because we don't have, extended family, really. I have, 2 aunts, maybe 2 cousins. Yeah. But no grandparents, no father side of the family. It's literally my mother, me, and then my other 3 sisters. So I think she told the cop, and my mother's a detective. My mother's a Greenberg detective.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first time, I couldn't get out of trouble. The second time, I think she really pulled out, her badge and her card, and really used my get out of free jail card for that situation.
Wow.
To keep me out of prison. So my mother gave me life, and she saved my life many times.
Thanks to mom.
Thanks to mom.
Thanks, Mom.
So
Ryan, can you relate to that story? Was yours similar? Is it different?
It's definitely different. But I definitely agree that, you got to want it yourself. There might be that initial thing that, might start you getting sober and start the process of, realizing that what you did can't be done anymore. But, you don't stay sober until you really want it for yourself. And I totally relate to that and agree to that.
Tell us about your story.
So, I started drinking young, it's a Scottish family, so drinking kind of runs in the blood. Started drinking in middle school, started smoking a little weed and whatnot throughout middle school and high school. And then things just got a little out of hand, was willing to just, I was the type of person, if it was around, I was willing to try it. And then it just eventually just got out of hand completely. And that's all I wanted to do. It was, I think, my way of coping. I was always friendly. I was the social guy, but for me, it was just a way to kind of not think about certain things or whatnot. It was just, I just wanted to get high. That was my plan. And then it was funny when not funny, but once I actually started getting into other drugs, you said like you didn't smoke weed. I didn't smoke weed for maybe 10 years when I was heavily addicted to other things. It just wasn't even a thing. I didn't even drink. And then once all the other drugs got out of hand, you know, my family could see a big difference in me. You know, I lost a lot of weight. You know, you could just see a complete different person, just attitude. You know, I think I lost like 70 pounds just from doing what I was doing. And, you know, went to college and just kept going. And I left college, and when I came home, you know, I felt like I was down. I was just, you know, felt like technically like a failure. Didn't know what to do, so it just got worse and worse and just kept digging a hole. And then I decided, you know, one day to actually go get help. So I went to inpatient or tried it. My family kind of at the time forced me to do it, so I did it thinking it would help, like an instant relief kind of thing. It stuck for a little bit, didn't really pan out, and then went back like 1 or 2 more times to a short-term inpatient. And then I had like 5 months under my belt of just sobriety. And then my father passed at 21, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And for another year or so, and then I was able to the way I became sober at that time from everything I was doing is I actually just did cold turkey. I went to Florida. My parents at the time had a house there. I locked myself in a room for a week, and I just sweated it all out, got it out of my system. And then I came back, and I decided to work in a liquor store. That was my plan. It's like, I didn't have a drinking problem. I had more of a drug problem. Like, I was like, it's not painkillers, you know, I can just drink a little bit. So then years went by of that. I just started drinking. So I switched from one thing to another addiction, and then drinking just got extremely out of hand. And then right as so that was the next 8-9 years of just drinking and managing a store. You know, I got into real estate in 2017. So, you know, and also in real estate, there's a lot of events, social parties. So I was doing a lot of drinking then. And then actually during, I guess, January 2021, I woke up and I just did not feel right. And I went to the hospital, and they said, you're actually having a heart attack. And I was like, holy shit, how's that even, like, I think of someone having a heart attack, they fall to the floor. I was like, how's that possible, having a heart attack? I'm only 30 years old. Like, no. And then they like rushed me upstairs. They did the whole procedure just to check everything. I was fine, but they, you know, said, because of whatever reason, they said it was because of COVID. You know, I was asymptomatic or whatever, but I didn't realize I had COVID. So I was working out, stressed out, overweight. So I just put a lot of stress onto my heart, and it caused me to have a heart attack. And from there, I was like, all right, holy shit. I just got married 6 months prior to that. So I was like, I got to get my shit together. And this time it like really stuck. I knew that I really wanted it for myself, and I did not want to touch another thing. And so since January 3rd of 2021, I've not touched a single drink, smoked anything, or any type of painkiller or anything like that. I'm just done. Just can't be doing it anymore.
You guys should really be proud of yourselves, because like what you just did, cold turkey, is not an easy thing to do, and it takes a lot of discipline. So you guys should really, really be proud of the position that you're in today. And you touched on something very important too. I think being in the industry that we're in, there is a lot of, you know, extracurricular activities.
Yeah, it's hard.
Events, right? You know, you want to take a client out, whatever. What are the daily battles that you guys have with yourselves, you know, to try to stay disciplined and, you know, stay away from the drugs and the alcohol but still live your lives normally? You know, I'll start with you.
I mean, now, honestly, it's not even thought in my mind. So really? I could be sitting with 4 liquor bottles in front of my face, no one in the room. You can leave me alone. I won't touch them. I'm at that point now. But when I was first getting sober, it was the hardest thing. Every day I had to wake up and just tell myself, don't drink. Literally when I'm brushing my teeth in the mirror, just, okay, don't drink today. And you just have to do that one day at a time, every day. And it's hard because I got sober at 27, so all my friends, baby showers, weddings, bridal showers, everything you could possibly think of was going on.
Good
and
times.
I'm that person where you either don't want to be an asshole and not go because you know how hard it is for yourself to be around that and not, fall into getting a drink. So for one full year when I first got sober, I had 2 attempts at getting sober, actually. When I had my first DWI, 23, I was sober for 11 months because I had to be through court order.
Okay.
On my 12th month, my 1 year, I celebrated by having a drink. I said, I'm cured. I can go 11 months. I can control my drinking. Worst decision of my life. Then, when I got sober at 27, and I was like, all right, I've actually had it, then I was like, let me go out to these events. Stop sitting at home and missing out on them. So I'd go to maybe 1 or 2, but it feels like a superpower, honestly, when you're out at a networking event and everyone's drinking. Not that it's a bad thing. People can control their liquor. That's great.
Right.
But it feels like a superpower once you get to an event and it doesn't faze you, but it's hard.
You've conquered it. You feel like you've
conquered it now, absolutely. But in the beginning, you have networking events, dinners, all this, everyone's getting a drink and let me get a seltzer. It's awkward only because alcohol is the only drug I feel where if you don't use it, people assume you have a problem. So when you're 30 years old and everyone's drinking and, you don't want to drink, why not? Then it's like, I don't want one, or, I got to a point where I'm comfortable, I just say I don't drink anymore. But before I would be embarrassed, 27, I'm sober.
I'm on medication.
Or, I was on medication where if you take, I forgot what it was called, but if you actually drank on it, it was Camprol or something.
Antabuse or whatever.
And Antabuse.
Yeah.
So if you take this pill in the morning, if you drink on it, you violently will throw up. So it literally scares you into not drinking.
Wow.
So I was on Camprol, Antabuse, so that you just don't put it in your body. But then I stopped with the medication. You just get to a point where, honestly, you just don't want it,
Is that where you guys are?
Yeah.
You?
I think definitely. It's like, the few attempts that I did try to get sober, I didn't really, really want it. And then this time around, it's like, all right, I definitely can't touch this. Same thing. It does not faze me at all.
Right.
I can go out. You see me. I'll drink like 10, 15 club sodas.
He's not exaggerating.
There's really not much else. I mean, I'll go out. I'll have a Heineken Zero sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people who are sober don't like to touch the Heineken Zeros because it's triggering. But to me, I like it. I like the taste of beer, so I have a Heineken Zero or a seltzer or a Red Bull.
Yeah, so it was actually funny. A few weeks ago, we did another podcast with the Bloody Marys.
Yeah.
And he had 0 proof alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And he was making a cocktail with it. And the drink tasted great, but I still felt weird.
So that I can't do.
Yeah.
I've seen the spirits that are non-alcoholic, so they have non-alcoholic rum, vodka. And my favorite drink was a Long Island iced tea. That was my favorite. So I saw that online last year, those spirits. So I was like, if I get the non-alcoholic vodka, rum, and gin, and I make my own Long Island iced tea at home,
Yeah.
Then I said, absolutely fucking not.
Yeah, it was like 0
That's probably the
proof.
worst idea of my life.
Yeah, it was tequila.
And it wasn't appealing anyways. The liquor just not appealing
Yeah.
at all. So you just get to a point where you just don't want it. And once you see how better life is without it, you absolutely don't want to go back.
I think the best part is that you're just, at this point, once you get a little bit of time under it, it's like you wake up every day and your mind is clear. You're not in a fog. Like when we go away to events or stuff, you guys won't go out and have a few cocktails. The next morning, you guys are having a rough morning, but I'm like downstairs having breakfast, ready to go, getting some coffee.
It out. I don't have rough mornings anymore. I got the cure.
Okay. more drinking.
Gotta eat right before you go to bed. That used to cure my hangover. Stuff a sandwich
Fried
in my
stuff.
mouth before I went to bed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So throughout your journeys, through addiction, obviously you didn't just hurt yourselves. You guys most likely have hurt people in your life, people that care about you. What advice would you give to somebody that isn't the person who's addicted, but who is a family, a relative, or a friend of somebody who does have an addiction? What piece of advice can you give that person, who wants to help, isn't sure how? Also, you don't want to enable. There's a lot of things that go through your mind. What would you tell somebody as a former addict?
So that's the hardest thing. So a lot of addicts don't like being confronted about their problem. Get very defensive.
It makes it real.
Makes it real.
Yeah.
So to be told, hey, listen, you have a problem, even if you're saying, listen, I love you, but you have a problem. I used to get very defensive. But I just tell people, all you can do is just if you have an addict in your family, a sibling or spouse, don't enable. So if you know that, you know, they have drugs in the house, or don't bring alcohol in the house. You know, if you know someone is using, don't bring anything into the house. But just tell them that you love them every day. That's all I can say, because you can't force someone to get clean. So, you know, I have friends who have siblings or spouses who are using, and they're worried sick every single night. You know, you're just going to stress yourself out. No one will change unless they want to. So I just tell people, just tell whoever's struggling that you love them and that you're here, and then just always check in. You know, weekly text or whatnot. If you can see them for lunch, you know, go ahead and do that. Tell them, you know, if they look disheveled or if they look, you know, like they are struggling, then maybe you can try to have an open, heartwarming conversation. But, you know, to try to tell an addict, listen, go get help, or, you know, I'm not going to talk to you, or I was cut out from my family, you know, for about a year. And that's hard. But it makes you realize, okay, I want my family, so let me get clean. So you do have to set boundaries. You know, I wasn't allowed at birthday parties. I wasn't allowed to pick up my nieces and nephews and hold them. God forbid I dropped them. You know, so just all you could do is just tell them that you love them and that no matter what, you'll be there. That's all you need. All I needed was people to tell me that they were going to be there, you know, if things got hard or not. That's all I needed.
I remember you said something a while ago that an addict, you can't just take them to rehab. You can't force them to go to rehab. That they have to want it, right? They have to go themselves. Is that where you were?
With this time around, yes. Originally, you know, anyone can take you to rehab. You know, it's what you get out of it and how you actually use what you know, learn or whatever you do when you're there. But until you physically want to be sober and actually really want it for yourself, you're not just gonna. It's not like just turn off. Like, you know, my dad, he had an old school mindset. He didn't really understand addiction. You know, he was always supportive, wanted to help me, but he didn't understand. He thought you could just, you know, go to sleep, wake up, just stop drinking, stop using drugs. But, you know, it's just not the case. You know, there's a lot more to it than that. You know, it could be emotional, physical, whatever it is. There's just, especially the mind is the craziest thing of all. The mind is what controls everything.
Yeah.
So it's a case-by-case basis too. Any person that I've met that has an addiction, every single story is completely different in a way. They're never the same. But at the same time as when they finally get sober is because they hit rock bottom and they knew that they really needed it for themselves.
What is rock bottom?
It's different for everyone. You know, for me, it was my health and I had a heart attack. That's what got me sober. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done.
And for you, it was 5 to 7 in Attica.
My rock bottom was 5 to 7 in Attica, sitting on the sidewalk thinking they were taking me upstate. That was my rock bottom.
That's crazy.
That was probably the worst time in my life, yeah. Sitting there drunk, figuring out, okay, if I go in now, I'll be out at 32, and then I can restart my life at 32. So when they literally unclicked those handcuffs, that was my rock bottom. It doesn't get worse than that. It's pretty much in a situation where it does not get worse than this.
Sitting here today, 2 years sober, 5.5 years sober, I'll ask you first, what is your go-to therapy these days? Like, what is it that you turn to when you feel like maybe you want to have a drink or maybe you want to have a bump or something like that, but you're going to go to something else? What is that?
Don't laugh.
I'm not going to laugh.
So I spend a lot of time and money in the Lego store.
I love Legos.
I love Legos.
So
They're
love
crazy
cars.
expensive now.
That's why. I just said I spend a lot of time and money in the Lego store. So that's my go-to. I love cars. So I don't know if you've seen those little speedster cars that they have in the Lego store, like the Lamborghinis, the Bentleys, all that stuff. So I love Legos because if I want to go out or I have that itch to go drink or do a bump, I'll literally whip out. I have them stocked in my closet. I have like 8 boxes at a time, so I never run out. If I feel the urge, I would just whip out a Lego, sit there, open the little bags, because once you open those bags, you have to commit to finishing. Now you have 1,000 little pieces everywhere that you can't put away.
I usually just rip them all
So
open
you got
at once.
Me too. So now you have to do it. And I would sit there for an hour, build the car, and after that hour, you know, I felt a sense of accomplishment because I got this nice little, you know, Lamborghini in front of me that was just 1,000 pieces. But after that, I was exhausted, mentally exhausted from building that Lego, staring at those little pieces. My eyes hurt, you know, but I felt a sense of accomplishment. So that's it. I was done. That was my night.
I love
that. So anytime for a whole year, I sat home. I didn't go out for a year. I didn't talk to anybody, you know, relationship-wise. I was solely by myself for a year. And I probably built about 24 Lego sets that year.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I got a crap ton in my parents' house.
Yeah. I still have them
can't
now.
even put
That's
them
all
in
I
my own
do.
apartment because there's too many.
Me too. That's all I do. But yeah, that's my
That's
vice
really
for
cool. I love that.
mini Legos.
Ryan, same question.
Well, I'm sure you know, but definitely in the past year was, you know, the first year I was just trying to get my stuff in order and kind of just take the year to really just get the whole mindset into play. But then the past year it's been, you know, diet and Peloton. Peloton has been my like savior. You know, right now I'm just about to be down 80 pounds. And, you know, if I don't use it one day, it like really messes with my mind. It sucks.
We know.
And I also, you know, I love to eat. So that's the other thing. I've been dieting for the past almost year. And every day that I get a cheat day, you see me, I can...
You saw the sandwich you just took down, right?
Yeah.
I barely saw it. He took it down that fast. But I saw it.
No, that's great. I mean, I think you guys have really found something that you're not that it doesn't feel like it's a chore for you to do it. Like you're passionate about the Legos, you're passionate about the Peloton, so it's really
Yeah.
you know gearing that. I mean, you still have an addict's mentality.
The thing is,
It's just positioning it elsewhere, right?
I'm always going to be an addict. You know, I have an addictive personality.
Right.
I've just stopped using certain drugs. So anything that I do, so I know, Ryan, you're probably addicted to working out because it's a constant thought on your mind every day. And if you don't do it, you're not happy.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with drinking. It's
Yeah.
a constant thought every day. And if I didn't get a drink, I was nasty.
Hmm.
You know, so you just have to gear your addiction towards something else. So now all I do is just work. Like from morning, you know, I can stay until 8 p.m. You know, I'm not in a relationship. I don't go out afterwards. So I literally just am addicted to work on weekends. I work Saturdays, Sundays, obviously, you guys know. And I just work until I'm tired.
And a
And
Lego
And a
once
Lego
a month.
at night, you know, spice things up. But, you know, if I want to go out and have a good time, I don't go to clubs, obviously.
Right.
Maybe I'll go to a bar and watch a game. That's not a trigger for me. But I'll do things like bowling. You know, I'll go catch a movie or go to an art museum in the city. Like
Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill. It's a quiet life, but it's so peaceful. Like, I feel like, I don't know about you, but like this is literally what I prayed for 5 years ago. So like if you feel like you're not where you want to be in life now, like there's still progress and work we need to do. But there's days where, you know, I just think about 5 years ago I prayed for this life, to be
Yeah.
clean, to just be able to go to work, to not wake up with a hangover, have my family talking to me. So, you know, we still have work to do, but I'm honestly where I wanted to be.
You're killing it.
Yeah.
You're
Thank
doing
you.
great.
It's also like the amount of focus that you put on to when you were using and like drinking,
Oh.
drugging. Where are you going to find the next fix to do that,
Yeah.
do this? And now you switch it into
Switching
like,
to work.
Yeah, switch it to work. These last 2 years have been golden. It's like
Right?
if I just did this all the time, I'd be a millionaire.
I feel like being an addict in our field kind of gives me an advantage because, you know, if a client needs a specific house that is just hard to find, I'm going to make sure that I find it. You know, like when we were addicts, if I needed Coke and I wanted to do Coke that day, I was going to find it. Like you never heard a crackhead say, couldn't smoke today.
Right.
No, you see them always on the street asking for money,
They'll
asking
find
for
it.
this. They're
Yeah.
going to get it done.
You'll
They're
find
going to
a
get
way.
their fix that day.
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing with work, okay? I have a client who's in a situation where no one else could help them. Let me see what I can do and just become obsessed with it and figure it out. Like, I'll find a way.
You
I
guys
feel like
are
addicts
awesome.
find a way.
You guys are awesome. Last question. We'll start with you.
Oh boy.
If you can give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Oof. Man.
That gives you a head start to
I
start
should have
thinking about your
expected
answer.
that one,
It's a
but I
tough
didn't
one.
really plan that one out. I don't even want to say like stay the course or anything because obviously that just got me to here. But just be positive. I think for me is that I get in my head a lot. You gotta stay away from that. Just stay positive. You do the right thing. Do right by people and your family and your friends. That's what's gonna get you somewhere. The mind is a very tricky place. It can be a very dark place, regardless if you're sober or not sober. But you just have to be positive and just, whatever goal or something that you want in life, just go for it and just, you'll get it somehow. No matter how long it takes to get it, you'll get it.
I love that. See, you knew the answer. Darian, same question.
So mine may sound a little corny, but honestly, I would just say you have to love yourself And the negative thoughts that you tell yourself will come true. So, you know, I had a lot of self-hatred when I was young, and that's what turned into me spiraling, you know, with alcohol and cocaine. Because, you know, nobody loves themselves when they're doing drugs and ruining their life. You obviously have some sense of, you know, self-worth that's not there. You know, so just love yourself, and the negative talk will become reality. So when I was waking up, telling myself I'm a loser, you're this, guess what? You're going to go through your day being and acting like a loser. You know, so now I have to wake up and tell myself, listen, you're a winner, you're a good person, and you've got this today. But every morning for 10 years, I'd wake up and say, you're a loser. And guess what? For 10 years, I was a loser. So to all the young kids out there, just don't be hard on yourself, love yourself, and just talk highly about yourself. Even if it's to yourself in the mirror because you don't yet believe it. Just start with the little things. You know, don't call yourself a loser. You know.
You guys are fucking winners, man. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
Thanks.
You know, I'm sure it was tough, but I really appreciate it and hope we could help somebody out there. You guys all subscribe to the TVT News podcast. Make sure you catch the full episode here, and we'll see you next time.